Da-da-da. Welcome, everybody, to Sally Speaks. This is a pretty special edition that we're going to be sharing with you today with my friend Sandy Forseille. Now, she has a beautiful story. She's an author of a children's book called Believe, which I'm going to get her to share with you because it doesn't necessarily just apply to the children, does it, Sandy?
No, it doesn't.
So we'll dig into that a little bit because it's a really interesting story how that came about, but also the impact that it's having globally as her book has gone global now. And it's pretty exciting when that happens. So I'm really, really proud of you, but I'm really excited for you as well because I know that the message that you have is so amazing. And so I know it's going to touch so many people's hearts and make such a difference for so many young people that are reading this book called Believe. Now, Sandy is also a life coach, and she has another profession in addition to this, but her passion is really supporting women and really helping women to step into their greatness and really understand what it is that motivates them and how they can step out of their comfort zone and create the life of their dreams. So welcome, Sandy.
Thank you, Sally.
So why don't you start with telling us a little bit about your journey in getting to, number one, being the life coach, but then also talking to us a little bit about your book. So I'll let you take it from here and I'll just throw in the questions as we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Um, my journey becoming a life coach actually started when I moved away from my family. And I know it sounds bad, but my kids were all grown and they had kids. And I just thought, I needed to go back to my roots. And so I moved away from where I was, and it was 12 hours. So my husband and I were commuting back and forth all the time. He'd go back to work for 20 days up north and then come down for 10. And then I would still go up there. But before I left, I was a air brake instructor.
Okay.
So I was actually an assessment officer. So I did go the extra little bit to be able to test people. So when I moved down to the Okanagan, I always say everything happens in order. And sometimes we don't expect it to be that order. We want it to be now, or we want it to be later, right? And we never know who is going to be in our path in that time frame. And that's what happened to me is I moved down to the Okanagan in British Columbia, and this lady came to one of my air brake courses, and she says, I loved your course because we were all women sitting here and it was a woman instructor. So if you've ever gone to a course where there's a man and a woman teaching, it is hilarious because my husband and I both teach now the same, like the air brake course for the semis.
Yep.
And you can definitely see the difference between how I teach as a woman and how a man teaches. And it is funny sometimes. So if you have a bunch of men, they'll have this blank look on their face and they'll look at my husband and go, can you explain that again? Or I can explain it better because they're used to having their wife talk. So this woman said to me, she says, you should join this Thinking into Results program. And I went, okay. And she's, well, here's all the information. And I hemmed and hawed. And it was a couple months later, and I decided to do it. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, where I decided to take other programs. And I always wanted to write a children's book, but I wanted to wait until the time was right. That thing I did know that the timing had to be right because this was going to be very important. And then COVID hit. And so everything about the book kind of got put on hold, but I was still doing my life coaching. And then of course the air brakes, it went on hold because you're with the people in the classroom and we weren't allowed to. So that kind of got put aside too. So last year, it was in May, I was talking to my husband, and because he had moved down after about 5 years, he finally moved down with me. And we were sitting there, and I said, I need to write. I feel like I have to write this book now. And he said, what's going to be on? And I said, I'm not sure. I said, but it's going to come to me. And usually before I go to sleep, I ask, if I need something, I'll ask and say, what is the name of something that I should talk about, or what should what should I write about? So that night I did. And the next day I said, I know what I'm going to write about. And it's going to be a children's book. And it's about the struggles that children have now. And I know we've all had struggles as children, but times are different. Like they're different now. Like with all this stuff going on, like we never had to wear masks in school. And so yeah, well, I just started writing. And Sally, if I could describe it, it was just like it was an intervention. Cause I write everything out by hand. I have notes everywhere.
Yeah.
And and
that's our generation, right?
It is, I think so. And my hand was cramping, and this is no lie. My hand was cramping because the words were coming so fast.
Wow.
So I knew that this was like the words that I was supposed to write. And then when I finished the book, and it took me a half an hour, that's all. And I sat there, and Danny goes, so he goes, like, you just taking a break? And I said, I'm done. And he goes, you're done? I said, yeah. And I said, you want to hear it? And he said, sure. So I read it to him. And afterwards I cried. I sat there and I bawled my head off. And he goes, what, that's really good. And he goes, but why are you crying? Because I'm not a crier.
Yeah.
And he goes, why are you crying? I said, I never realized this book is about me. This little girl, because it's about a little girl who has confidence growing up. And then when she starts school, as we all know, like there's the outside world that kind of goes after us, like other little kids, they call you names, and that we just handle it wrong, right? Because we don't understand. And then just throughout your life, you get people saying, well, you got a D, and then in your report card, and you're stupid and all this, or you get made fun of because of your size or whatever, like the clothes you wear. And so this little girl started taking it internally, very personal. So she would not look at herself in the mirror anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it just briefly goes through how she would shower without the lights on. She would brush her teeth without looking in the mirror. She would not dress in front of the mirror. And after I had wrote it, I went, this is me. And it was not until about 6 months before that. So I just turned 59. And so I was 58 when I wrote it.
Yep.
And it was only 6 months before I wrote it that I actually took that long before I could stand in front of a mirror and like my reflection. And then it goes through the growth that she goes through on how she overcame that. And then she was helping other people with it. Yeah. And then she meets up with a little boy whose name is Danny. And and his struggles growing up as a little boy was playing the what if games, because we all do it. Even as an adult, we do it. We're always, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? We're always doubting ourselves. We're always doubting the believer in us, right? We focus too much on our beliefs that we've been raised with from the outside world. And so, but his mother is there to comfort him. So his mom is there to say, it's okay, but what if this happened? Because they moved, and then the trials and the challenges that he went through because of being scared, and how much fear that holds us back, right? So the book is really, it's about nurturing and releasing, right? And because we nurture our plants by giving them water. We nurture our children by encouraging them. And I just think, like we need to start nurturing ourselves and saying we're good enough, we're worthy, and it's okay. Like it's okay to fail, because it just means that we're tried, right? But we've all been raised that failure is a bad thing. So yeah, it's a really neat journey. And it's just living in awareness now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was just so excited once I wrote the book, and I thought, this is not just like, the whole intention of this was so that children can read it and go, I'm not the only one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay, right? Sorry. And then the other intention was for adults when they read it, either to themselves or they read it to their children
Mm-hmm.
or their grandchildren, that they actually will look back at themselves and go, wow, that inner child in me went through the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think
yeah.
that's the biggest message. Even from, I'm just going to go back to what you said at the beginning, where you sort of moved away from your family for a while just to really reconnect with who you were. Is that what the intent was? And to really get to know who Sandy was at a deeper
Yes.
level?
Yes, exactly. And like, it wasn't that I wanted to move away to find, like so many people say, oh, you got to find yourself. I wasn't going to find myself as per se, like go and try different things. I just needed to go back to my roots and go, I know she's in there, right? I don't have to go look outside. I had to go inside and look and see where she
Mhm.
was. And the reason I picked this place, where my roots were, is because this is where I was born, the Okanagan. And my parents are here, and my dad is very ill. So I just thought, I'm covering so many bases. I'm nurturing myself, and when I know when I'm nurturing myself, and eventually it's going to help my family,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
plus, it's going to help my two daughters because they're going to look at me and go, wow, like it doesn't just end when you're a mom.
Yeah.
Like life doesn't just end.
Yeah.
And also, I'm so blessed that I got to spend time with my dad and my mom
Mhm.
because I was right close to them. So, yeah,
Awesome.
it's been a really good experience.
So a little bit different than most people, where, I understand with the husband working away, because my husband's worked away a lot throughout his career as well. And sometimes I really felt like I was a single mama for a long time. But at the same time, you adjust, right? You adjust, but you also get an opportunity to really have those bonds with the people that are most important to you, but also to really understand how you operate and how you think. And I know manifestation is a big piece of who Sandy is, but I believe it's also about just being intuitive and really being aware of the energy that surrounds you. And, when you're talking about writing your book, it was just like it was coming from another source and flying out on the paper. And that's a beautiful opportunity
Mhm.
for you. And I don't know that that would have happened had you not taken that time for yourself to really
No.
reconnect with who Sandy was.
No, you're
Is.
right, Sally. And like it wasn't, in the end, it wasn't just my growth. This was such a growth for my husband also.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was very supportive of this because he could see me that I was losing. Like I didn't have a purpose, I thought, because I
Mm-hmm.
raised my children. I did my mother thing, I did my grandma thing, and I did my wife thing. And I thought, like now I need to get back into myself and know who I was,
Mm-hmm.
because I went straight from graduation to marry to have children, and then my children left, and I'm like, okay, who am I? Right. And so after the 5 years of just going back and forth all the time, me going up north visiting, and then they coming down, my husband said to me, this is the best thing that's ever happened to both of us. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
I actually learned how to cook. I learned how to do my own laundry. And he said, I was able to spend time alone with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then he really appreciated coming down and spending time with me. And I appreciated spending time with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how other people's beliefs are, because we had so many people, even family, go, you'll never last.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't last when you guys are separated that long,
Mm-hmm.
like because you grow apart. And I said, no, and honestly, if it wasn't for taking these other programs and realizing how our energy works,
Mm-hmm.
and like how like manifestation works, how our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
right, control us. And yeah, we might not have made it,
Yeah.
honestly. but because of this, learning all of this stuff, it helped us both grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, there's so many people like us that, have had our full-time careers or our full-time lives, and we get to a stage in our life where we're like, wow, like for me, when I was in corporate for years, I was in corporate and I had fabulous jobs and I made great income and I couldn't complain about anything. But there came a time where I was really ready to make a move, to be able to really search for what I felt was my purpose as well.
Yeah.
And, I did that 3 years ago. And I can tell you that the growth that I've had in learning about my skill set, but also learning how to work with people to help them to achieve their goals and dreams, and with a system that really works to help them with that. And it's just life changing. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's just so fulfilling. And there's never a moment in my day that I'm not feeling like I'm making a difference for someone else in a way that's just so life changing, that it really is a huge opportunity for us to be able to
Yeah.
work with people like that and to help others that
Yeah.
are, like me. I was a late career changer. I'd had
Yeah.
lots of success, like I said, but I knew there was something missing in the development of people. And that was the personal, but also professional development in a way that they hadn't approached it before. Because what I found is that in corporate, they teach you a lot on the how to do your job.
Yeah.
But they don't talk to you about why you're getting the results that you are. So there was always people in the roles that I was in, where I was coaching entrepreneurs, that there was people that would always really struggle and others that would just excel. And nobody could pinpoint what the difference was to be able to help the people that were struggling to get to that next level. And so that was one of my missions. I wanted to find out what was that missing key, right? What was the missing key to be able to get people to be able to have the success, regardless of where they were, but where they wanted to be, and having them focus on that. And I know you mentioned a little earlier about the grades in school and things like that. And from a young age, we've always been told, if you didn't get an A, you weren't good enough. And some people that got an A weren't good enough because they didn't get an A plus. Right?
Yes,
And so they would
exactly.
get in trouble for not having a good test or something like that. But I don't know that as parents, we really understood the impact that can have lifelong on somebody.
Yeah.
Because I know you mentioned a little bit about paradigms. We didn't use the word, but I know that that's what we were talking about. And those paradigms that are so deep within us, like in your book, not looking in a mirror, because someone told me I wasn't pretty enough, or I wasn't, skinny enough, or I wasn't, I didn't have the right color hair, etc. Right? It all comes down to a paradigm, and it's just a behavior that we've created based off of that paradigm.
Yeah.
Right? So not looking in the mirror, because at one point I didn't feel worthy enough to even look at myself in the mirror. And so thinking about those differences in those paradigms that we all have, and we probably have lots of them, but now having you and I both have an opportunity to be able to coach people past those paradigms. And to get them feeling that freedom like you're feeling now, and your husband, because he's also been able to step into all sorts of different levels of performance and acceptance and understanding that he's capable of creating probably a gourmet meal. So I'd have him cook all the time if I were you. Make up for all those other years.
He can do a vacuum very well.
I was like, my mother-in-law taught her sons to cook, to clean, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very fortunate, because my he's actually a really good cook. So I'm pretty fortunate. But, I mean, those are the types of things that a lot of us have been told that, you don't do that, or you're not good enough, or I'll do it. Some of us say, and let the others ride, and then they don't have the life skills even. But at the same time, they don't have the confidence to step into that. So I love what you're saying about your book and how it really teaches not only the children that are going to read the book, but also to the parents that are reading, and maybe they can intercept some of those paradigms before they get too deep and implanted with their children.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of it too, Sally, is we have to look at every time something happens to us and we just don't feel right, or we feel off, or we get mad. That is one of the things that really impacted me with these programs that we teach, is to really pay attention to our energy. Because if I feel off or I get upset over something, I actually have to step back now. And I've learned to release things. I've learned to step back and go, don't get mad at somebody because they did that. When you were a kid, it's like, oh, and then you start crying because somebody said something or picked on you. As an adult, we sit back and go, it's their beliefs, it's their perception. We're allowed to have, thank goodness we have different perceptions. Because I wouldn't want all of us to be the same, right? So, but it's just so important for us to be able to step back and see what's happening around us and go, is this serving us or not? If it's not, I don't want it, and let it go. Right. So,
yeah. And I think,
like, I know, like, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
With the book, like, yes, like I went back in time, but I went back in time just to be able to release this, but it's also to be able to like, no, I didn't want it to be like a poor me book, right? I don't want people going, oh, boo-hoo, look at like what she's doing. What I'm trying to do is let people understand that we do have to acknowledge that we have those feelings still there, but we don't need to bring them with us for the rest of our life. We can say it's okay to move on. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the beauty is, we have a multitude of those behaviors, right? From everything on how we react to somebody when they walk in the room, that's a certain person, right? Versus another person, to, like you said, brushing your teeth in a certain way, or a habit that you've been trained. All of those little things are all just habits, right? And when we have our paradigms, it's like, how are we feeling when we show up in this situation or that situation? Or when somebody else comes in with, one of the biggest things for me is when somebody else comes in with an energy that doesn't match where I want my energy to be, I have to really focus on sending energy to them to let them feel a little bit more confident, but I also can't take that energy on anymore. And so I really am protective, I guess, of my energy. And I don't want to take on other people's circumstances, because whatever they're going through is what they're going through. And it doesn't have to become part of my mindset for that day or my reaction. And so I think a lot of us are programmed to, with just certain people or certain circumstances, or maybe it's somebody at work that, you're just not getting along with because they rub you the wrong way. And it's so easy for us to have a reaction and feeling against that person. But at the end of the day, I don't really have to take that on. I can let them deal with that and their situation, but I don't have to buy into that situation. I can acknowledge it, but I don't have to buy into that to take me off of my game. And so those circumstances can pop up at any point in time, and you don't know where they're going to show up or who's going to show up, but they can, right? And I think in your book, I can see how you've addressed that in a way that makes it easy for people to understand that, you know what, Sandy's beautiful the way she is, and Sandy is going to make sure that Sandy stays in that zone. I'll call that zone of that calmness, that happiness, that joy that she's choosing to bring forward that day.
That's right.
And likewise, when you're saying you just separate when you're not feeling that you're in the right energy for something, I think we've become also so accustomed to the push in our day, the tasks. I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I gotta. And I just have completely changed my to-do list to I get to, and I only put 4 things on my get to list each day, but I put them on there with the positive energy and an ease and things along that type of line. But if I find myself getting into that knot, I recognize it right away now. And I'm like, okay, I just got to step away and get my mind off of it, get centered again, and then come back to it. And so these little tools and tweaks that we do with our clients are huge. Although they seem like they're really small, it's really hard to adapt to. But over time, you really start to understand that. And I know that that's exactly how you're living now, because you're always so full of joy and laughter and fun, because that's what you would choose to bring forward.
Exactly. And that's what we want to come back to us, because whatever we put out, we know that's the laws and it's going to come back. And when you were talking, I love it, Sally, when you were talking about like the growth, because like we become so intuitive with our own energy that we might not say, well, like somebody might go, well, you've really grown. Like, and then we go, well, yeah, okay, yeah. But then we can spot it and go, that's what they're seeing. It's because we're not reacting, we're responding. And sometimes we just have to, like you say, we just have to back away because we don't want to absorb their energy.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things that I have learned too is to be grateful, live in gratitude. And every time I get in that energy where I don't like it, I have to sit back. And that's the first thing I do is say, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Sometimes I got to say it 10 times, but it changes your energy.
Yes.
And I always like, and even my grandkids now, if somebody says something, they'll be like, oh, but you got to be grateful. And then they'll flip it.
Oh,
And then
nice.
sometimes
That's
it's like,
awesome.
wow. And he's 15, right? So he realizes that. But yeah, like that's when we know that our growth is so important, is when we spot somebody else's and we don't, because so many of us get drawn into somebody else's negative energy. And before you know it, we're both sitting there miserable instead of going, whoa, I'm not going to, I'll listen, but that's as part like as far as I go, because when you're finished, then I'm going to explain how grateful we are because you got to change it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
I agree with the gratefulness and the appreciation of where you are and what you are today and what's around you today. Here where I am, it was raining really heavy. I can see a little bit of clouds that are whitish now. It's like, so it's like, oh, maybe I should go for a walk this afternoon so I could appreciate, whatever's out there waiting for me, whether it's the trees or whether I see a little dandelion coming up because they're already starting to come up here, those types of things. But just appreciating everything around you in the moment makes such a difference. And I call that the impression of increase because it's also allowing us to be able to, throw out that impression of increase to others so that they can feel that. And then the other piece of that is just sharing your energy. I mean, I've never been one that sort of really naturally thought about this stuff. I think I've done it all my life, but I never really thought about it. But I tested it one day. So one day I was walking down on my walk. I live near a university, so I was heading down there, and there was this young gal walking in front of me, and her head was kind of down, and I could sort of sense that something was not right, and she was feeling like sad or upset. And I just thought, I'm going to send her energy. And this is my experiment. So for those of you that haven't tried this, you can try it. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
I just decided to send her positive energy. And so I just, in my body, just started sending her energy and positive energy and, lifting energy. And she turned around and looked at me.
Wow.
And she was probably, I don't know, a good 20, 30 steps ahead of me, but I just decided to send her that energy. And that to me really showed me how powerful our energy can be in influencing others and attracting others. So I've had all sorts of neat things like that have happened, or I'll go for a walk in the summer and I'll say, oh, I think I'd like to see a dragonfly. And then I'll be walking past this field. Literally, this happened to me. I walked past this field because I live in sort of a farming community too. And there was a whole swarm of them. Right.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen a dragonfly all season, but all of a sudden there was a swarm of dragonflies. So part of that is kind of what we call manifestation.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me what your thoughts on manifestation are, because I know that's one of your expertise.
I love it. I love it. One day, like when I had moved down here, we needed a table. So these are just little things that I go like bang, 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 right? And because when something happens, it just boosts your energy to try something more. So we need a table. So I was looking on the marketplace. I found one in Kelowna, which is about an hour out of Enderby. And on the way there, I said to my husband, I said, we got to stop, because he was visiting at the time. And I said, we have to stop. So I got to buy some sheets. And he said, okay. So we go there And we're loading up this table that we had bought. And all of a sudden the lady comes out and she goes, Sandy, I just want to know, do you need any sheets? Because we're moving and we have all these brand new sheets and we don't need them. And Daddy kind of looked at me like, what? And I went, hey. So then I said, sure. So we bought the sheets off her.
Yeah.
And then on the way back home, he goes, well, I guess we don't have to stop and get sheets. And I said, no, but I said, we should get some more masks. And he goes, okay. And then so we were coming back and I said, we should go on the marketplace and get another, like a bed, like a cot or something for the grandkids. So when they come down and stay with us. So again, I went on marketplace. We go there to pick it up. This lady, I hand her the money. She comes back out. She goes, I make masks. Do you need any? And my husband just standing there. And on the way home, he goes, it blows my mind. And I said, what? And he goes, your manifestation is so incredible. And I said, you know what? It never used to be like that. And if it was a little bit, I wasn't in tune to it. But, and I think that's a lot of it. When we become in tune to it and we see that, wow, this is happening, then it makes you excited because now you want more. And then so his reaction is just looked at me and he goes, you do like me, right? And I go, why'd you ask that? And he goes, well, because you get so much whenever you ask for it. It may not be when you want it, but you do eventually get it. And he goes, and all of a sudden he goes, I just want to make sure you like me because I don't want to go poof and I'm gone. I go, oh, you're funny. And then
oof, a nice young one comes along. Oh dear, funny.
So I'm house sitting right now, and back down in the Okanagan. And so I had wrote in my journal, because I do write in a journal every day. And I write what I'm grateful for. I give forgiveness to 3 people. And those 3, one of them might even be myself, because I might catch myself being hard on myself one day. And then the next day I'll write, I forgive myself and I let it go. I release it, right? Because I don't want to bring stuff from the past to the future. So anyways, I wrote in it and I said, when I come down here, I'm going to get a tanning pass. And about an hour later, I get a text from my girlfriend that I'm looking after her and her husband's house. And she said, oh, remind me to show you how to use my tanning bed. And I go, what? And she says, why? And I go, I just wrote that in my journal this morning.
Yeah.
And I said, actually, about an hour ago. And she studies with me. She's one of my students. And she said, boy, this is powerful. And I said, yeah, and it's just when you see other people's lives changing, then it really confirms like that we're on the right track, because there's so many people that need what we teach.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think the manifestation is sort of the icing on the cake of all of the learning and the development that we've done with regards to our mindset and the way that we're working in attracting what we wanted to our lives, and all of the daily habits like you're talking about with your gratitude and your forgiveness. I do like practices every day as well. And studying is always part of my day.
Yeah.
Right? We're on a 6 a.m. class. But definitely the more you focus on you, the easier it is to help others. Number 1.
Exactly.
Number 2, the manifestation of smaller things to show you that it works is huge. So my clients, I'm always asking them every time I coach them, okay, so what are you going to manifest this week? And so it's all over the board. And I get back together. So what happened? Did you get it? And they're like, yeah, this is what happened. And it came from, I don't know where, blah, 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 blah. And so it's really fun because it gets them in the habit of just starting with, like we said, like I looked for dragonflies one day and they were there. And then I looked for I always look for something. Like one day there's a little farm market that they have flowers out in the summer that you can buy for $5. And so I had purposely gone a few days to get these flowers and they weren't there. And then all of a sudden one day I put $5 in my pocket because that's what they charge. I put a $5 bill in my pocket because I was going to stop at the little store on the way back, not the flower stop, something else. And sure enough, didn't they have a whole bunch of flowers out for $5 when I went
Wow.
by? But I had purposely gone to look for them. And when I stopped looking, they showed up. But I was prepared with the cash, right? Because that's all they take is cash. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's like a little jar, you put the money in, right? It's quite cute.
Yeah.
But it's like that just opened it up for me to say, you don't even have to be looking at that time. You let it go. You've put it out, your order out there.
Yeah.
You let it go, and circumstances fall into place to have it all happen for you. And that, I think, is one of the keys to manifestation. And I don't talk a lot about manifestation on this podcast, but I definitely believe that it's something that is absolutely huge. Once you start to understand how frequencies work, our energy works, and what an attraction magnet we are.
Yeah.
And, that's why I always start people with something really small, just like you said, like sheets or a mat or, I'm going to get a suntan, whatever it might be. Because when we prove to ourselves that it's possible, we can open up the doors to everything else we want in our life.
Yes.
And that to me is beautiful. And I think I'm sure you manifested your book.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
And it came to me like, because I had the night before it, and you're so right, Sally, like for years, I was just like, I wanted to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, when I finally let it go, and that night, like I hadn't even been thinking about it because there's so much help, like so much other stuff going on. And all of a sudden, when I finally let it go, and the one night I went, oh yeah, before I go to sleep, can you just tell me what my book should be about?
Yeah.
And then I went to sleep. The next morning, I know what my book's going to be about. And Danny's like, what? And I go, I don't know. I just relaxed. I let it go.
Yeah.
And like you say, like we don't have to know how it's going to happen. We just have to know that we have to believe it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing.
That's the
Even
trick,
if it's something silly, right?
It's like placing
Yeah.
an order with Amazon and just knowing that it's going to arrive. Because they told you it's arriving Prime today, so it's going to be there, or it's arriving in 4 days from now. And you're like, okay. So you don't even put any thought to it between the time you buy it to the time it arrives. And all of a sudden there it is. And so that to me is the key to manifestation, is to let go of the thought. So you've got that order you're placing, and you let go of the thought and you just let it come to you. And,
exactly.
If you put it out in your mind or to your spouse or whoever you trust that can hold on to those dreams, and sometimes it's just to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And most of the time mine are just to myself. I have my goals and my dreams, and I like to just keep them private because I put my energy toward it, and I protect myself from other people's opinions. And so that's another piece that I want to sort of bring up from a manifestation perspective. I mean, you and your husband have a really close connection. He understands it. He'll put his energy toward it as well. And he's in awe every time it happens. Right?
Yeah.
My husband's the same way, but he's not so understanding of it at this point, but he sees it when it happens. He's like, what?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we had one happen this week and it was pretty cool. And I sent him a text saying, guess what? And he's like, what? I'm like, this happened. What? So it was something that we had put out. How is it going to happen? And it just happened just like that. And it was a pretty big deal, right? So those kinds of things can happen if you just set it and say, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't even know if it will happen. I just know this is what I want. And that to me is when you truly are getting into your manifestation state.
Yeah.
And so that's the fun part. That's the fun part. It takes a while to get there, but once you get there, it's like you said, I can manifest anything I want. All I have to do is say it and it shows up. So that's pretty cool.
And I think with us, it is a little bit different. Well, it was a little bit different with Danny and I, because we weren't living in the same house at the same time. And for sometimes when COVID hit, we were like 2 months. We didn't see each other. We just talked on the phone because he couldn't come down, because once he left his job, they wouldn't let him back.
Yeah.
So it was 2 months, but I think like it was such a growth, like you were talking about you and your husband, how he sees like your manifestations now, he sees your growth, and he lives there. Where I know with Danny, we hadn't seen each other for 2 months, and he said what really changed his belief in this is how much I've grown. Because he said, he goes, you have grown so much that it's so, he goes, your energy has changed.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody says something, you automatically don't start like freaking out.
Yeah.
Like right away, you sit back and I can see, he goes, and it's scary because I can see the little wheels turning in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
know,
yeah.
I've had a lot of pretty cool manifestations before I studied this. One was in Kelowna when I was pregnant. My husband and I were visiting there, and we went into this beautiful show home in this neighborhood. It was gorgeous. It's like, oh my gosh, I would love to live here. And it took us 12 years before an opportunity came up that I was offered a position there, and we bought like a block away.
Wow.
Literally a block away from where we saw this house.
Wow.
And then I had another opportunity where I was with a group of ladies that wanted to focus on manifestation. And we got together. There was 8 of us. The Power of 8 is a book, if you've ever read that one, by Lynn Taggart. So it was a pretty cool opportunity. We got together and we would talk about our vision, right? What we wanted to attract. And I was chosen to be the first one to give my sort of little longer blurb, because everybody would have a time, but each week we would, or each month we would switch on the people. So I decided that at that point, I was still in my corporate career, but I wanted to be international speaker, and I wanted to have a book, and I wanted to be on stages, and I saw myself in this red dress and all these kinds of things. And that was in the January. And then what happened in between was a gal that's an event planner started a networking group. I went to that. I held myself out as this speaker. And then she started coaching me. She lined me up with a professional speaking coach that could help write the script. Wow. And then within 6 months, not even, I think it was in June, an opportunity showed up in the business that I was in to speak on an international stage to the biggest biggest meeting of the year. And so my friend and I teamed up and we said, let's do it. So we ran to her office because we were on the deadline. We did the phone the wrong way or whatever we needed to do. I'm like freaking out when we're doing a little video, application. And I sent it to my son, fix it for me. I got to get this out today. We said it. And so that was the end of June. And then we didn't even think about it. And in September, one of the managers that I worked with comes into my office and said, hey, are you interested in speaking at this event? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And we had just been accepted to speak on this international stage. They gave us professional coaching every week for 3 months. They had us go and do like we lived in Canada, they had us go down to Chicago for a rehearsal to see if we were going to be good enough. All expenses paid. And then what was really cute was that in order to get back to Canada, they sent us down to Punta Cana. So we got to stop in Punta Cana as a flight over. Then we came back, so we thought that was kind of cool. Then we got to go down to Dallas to speak on this stage, this international stage, the biggest event. And that's when we wrote our book, because we were told we needed to have a book to be able to, everybody said, you got to have a book if you're going to be speaking on that stage. So we wrote a book in a couple of months, got that ready. And there we were down on this international stage in Dallas. And then we went straight from there over to a convention that we had both earned through our company down in San Diego. And we had a brand new, our biggest boss in the company. She was just appointed. And our boss, our big vice president, was pushing us toward her. You got to meet her. You got to meet her. You need to know who these people are. And all these people that we didn't even know knew that we were on this stage at that event came up and said, oh my gosh, I heard. Oh my gosh, I heard. And it was just like, holy, like from one little manifestation, it was like we spoke that year after, but within 6 to 9 months, my whole life changed.
Yeah.
Became an author. I spoke on an international stage with my friend.
Wow.
We celebrated. We were held out as quite successful at this event.
Yeah.
And everything switched, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that was only because I had gone in with a group of people that I could trust, and we all put our
Yeah.
energy toward that goal. And
Yeah.
it just showed up. So
Yeah.
that is the power of belief and the power of our thoughts. And so,
Exactly.
you can call it manifestation, you can call it whatever you will, but it is your thoughts that
Yeah.
controls your performance and your actions. And
Exactly.
so that to me, I've already done a number of things before, but now I actually understand all why it happened the way
Yeah.
it did and what
Yeah.
happened with those couple of things. And I've had lots of other things, but those are the two big ones that I would say.
Yeah.
How fun is that?
Yeah.
How
And it
fun is
was
that?
your connection. It was the order of the connecting with those certain people that made it happen.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like you said, it's your belief that it's going to happen. Right. I know, like, I won a trip once. We had just come back from Hawaii. We took the kids there, and then so at work for the Christmas party, they were giving away the grand prize was a trip to Hawaii.
Nice.
And so I said to Danny, I was joking, and I said, "Oh, I said we were just there." I said, "I'll take my mom." He goes, "Yeah, go ahead, take your mom." And I go, "I'm going to win it." And he goes, "Yeah, you're right." And I said, "No, I'm going to win this trip." So my family was all laughing at me, and I said, "I'm taking mom." "Sure you are." Sure. I said, "Don't doubt me. I put it out there, and I'm winning it. I'm taking mom. And all of a sudden, I get a phone call that night because we left early because we were tired and getting too old for that. And all of a sudden, I got a call from my boss, and he goes, "Sandy," he goes, "you won the trip to Hawaii." And I went, "Oh, yeah, I know." And he goes, "Why, did somebody phone you?" And I said, "No, I knew I was."
Yeah.
And everybody's, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky," because I've won so many things, other trips and stuff. And everybody's like, "You're so lucky." And I said, "Well, depends what luck is. Because in the programs that we've been taught, luck is preparation and opportunity when they meet, right? And it's just, but what boils down to is their manifestation,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes, like when you talked about, um, like how you ask for certain things to appear or to happen, and then they do, it's just reassurance, right?
Yeah.
And I asked, like when I started doing these programs, I said, I said, I looked up and I went, "Okay, God," I said, "if you want me to proceed with these programs and stay down here alone, then show me a sign. Let somebody walk," and this is no lie, "let somebody I meet that I haven't met for 20 years, 25 years, come back into my life." It was about a week later. I'm walking down the street, and this girl was walking towards me, and she stopped and she looked at me and she was, "Sandy?" And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh my goodness." She goes, "I haven't seen you for 25 years. And it was one of my good friends that I grew up with. It was her sister.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I know, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I mean,
Instead of being struck by lightning.
I think we could go through dozens and dozens of opportunities that we've
Oh,
had like that.
yeah.
My
Yeah.
husband and
And
I have now, I've taught him that I can tell him that he's going to win something too, and we
yeah,
do. And so that's
it
kind of
is.
fun.
It is. And
But yeah.
like when I on my journey of the mirror, um, what I started doing, just in case um anybody's wondering, without reading the book, what would really help somebody is go to the mirror and write down, like look at yourself and not just look at your outside appearance. Really study the inside of your eyes
Yeah.
and how your body moves. Hold your hand up and be grateful that you can hold a brush and stuff. But write down on the mirror. What I did is I wrote down the mirror with
Lipstick.
washable eraser, of course.
Oh,
But
lipstick is what we usually do.
hey, lipstick. I don't have lipstick. But yeah, just write down the words,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I started doing. And then I would keep my journal all the time. And I don't get mad at myself if something happens and I don't get to my journal every day. I get to it the days that I can, and then the other days I say it in my head or I say it by myself out loud. because I don't get mad at myself anymore if something doesn't happen and it doesn't happen in the order anymore that it should.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
one of the things that I use is I understand that if you hold the emotion of the goal achieved for 17 seconds, that's the magic. And so I actually set a timer on my phone every hour
Wow.
between the working hour time.
Yeah.
And it goes off. And so I just stop what I'm doing. I close my eyes and I really get into the emotion of whatever it
Yes.
is that I'm wanting in my life as having been achieved, and let that sit for that 17 seconds. And oftentimes it keeps going on, and I can do it up to a minute, which gives it even more power. But, just interrupting your pattern and
Yeah.
having that energy, because the energy is the frequency. And the
Yes.
frequency is what we all have vibration around us. We're
Yeah.
vibrational beings. And so that frequency, when you tap into that with the energy of the goal achieved, as opposed to the how is it going to be happening,
Yeah.
what's going to be happening, what it's not going my way today. You just stop everything and you just pop into that. And my husband says to me sometimes, "Oh, you're in your happy zone again." Dang right I am. Because
That
when you
is
get into
so
that
funny.
energy, it's such a beautiful energy.
It is.
Right. And it
And
just
like you say,
feels
it
amazing.
really it makes you more aware, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny you said, because I have an app on my iPad that does that. I
Yeah.
set it so every hour it'll play a certain tune, and
Okay.
then I
Yeah.
stop
In
what
the
I'm
energy.
doing and I just go, I am so grateful. And then I start saying what I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for things that are going to happen tomorrow that haven't even happened yet,
Yeah.
because I know that it's already there. I
Mm-hmm.
just have
Yeah.
to get there the next day.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if it goes off at our house and the grandkids are there, and if we have a visitor and they go, "What is that?" and they're looking up to the sky and they're looking out, and the kids will go, "Oh, we got to stop and be grateful. That's Nana's. That's her gratitude
That's
music." And
beautiful.
then they'll all stand there and they all go. Some of them will giggle, right?
Yeah.
Because right now it's just a new thing for them because they just moved in with us. So yeah, but it's really it's neat seeing other people grow, and that's what this is
Mm-hmm.
all about.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's the growth. I always say the joy is in the journey
Yes.
and the growth is the reward. And
Yeah.
so, what my tagline is life is a story. Make yours a bestseller. You've already
I
written your
like that.
story and it's becoming a
Oh,
bestseller.
I
So,
love that. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's the thing. We have the opportunity
Yeah.
to write our story however we choose. And
Yeah.
so let's make sure that our stories are bestsellers. And let's make sure that we're really tapping into all the greatness that we have, that we've been blessed with in our lifetime. As small as it might be at certain days or certain times or certain moments, there's always something to be grateful for, to be appreciative of, and to be thankful for. And I think
Yeah.
changing your whole mindset around anything, whether it's the fact that, I still have a job that pays me income, or I still am able to love my wife. I have a beautiful child and I
Yeah.
can't, I just can't think any higher of my child. Or
Yeah.
I have a house, I have macaroni and cheese in the fridge.
Yes.
Right? Anything that would just make you confident that you have what you have, because we
Yeah.
take so much for granted, especially in North America, for the things that we have,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's so many things that are smaller things that we can focus on in a moment's time when we're feeling that desperation, we're feeling that failure, we're feeling that fear, we're feeling that worry, we're feeling that doubt. It only takes one little thing to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at my cat. He looks
Yeah.
so nice and snuggly on the couch." And it changes you right away. Yeah. And it
It
doesn't
does.
have to be anything big.
Yeah.
It be something as simple as that takes your mind
Yeah.
away from all of those other things.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, Sandy. So how do
I
people
enjoyed
find
it.
you?
They can find me at Sandy I am. And so the I am is just the letter I and the letter M. It's
Okay.
not IAM, it's IM.com. And that's my website. And you can look up my book, Believe, and it's sold on Amazon.
Okay. And we'll post
Yeah.
up in the comments how to find you as well as
Okay.
how to actually find the how to spell your last name, because
Yeah.
Forseille is a French name, and I would pronounce it Forseille because I lived in Quebec for a while. But I understand that. So we'll put all of that information as well as Sandy's link to where her book is and things like that. So if you're interested in connecting with Sandy, please, please do. She's a beautiful soul, as you can see, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have this hour with you today, Sandy, and to really share your story and all the blessings you're blessing on others.
Thank you so much, Sally. And I am very grateful to share like my journey along with you and everybody else. And yeah, thank you for having me as a guest.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.